Ladies, let me tell you something real. Relationships are like a dance. Sometimes you step forward, sometimes you step back. Now, most women believe that if you pull away from a man, he's going to forget you, he's going to stop caring, or he's going to move on. But let me break it down. When you pull away, you actually find out the truth about him. See, men are natural pursuers. If a man truly values you, your distance is going to trigger his instincts. It makes him think, wait a minute, where did she go? Why isn't she available like she used to be? That's when you'll see if he really wants you or if he just enjoyed the convenience of you always being there. Pulling away creates space, and space tells you everything. A real man, the one who's serious about you, won't let that space get too wide. He'll close the gap. He'll call. He'll check in. He'll show up. Why? Because he doesn't want to risk losing you. Ladies, let me talk to you about something that most people don't realize. When you're always available to a man, when you're always picking up his calls the second he rings, always saying yes to everything he asks, always rearranging your life just to make him comfortable, he starts to take that for granted. Not because he's a bad man all the time, but because consistency without challenge can create comfort. And comfort in a man's mind often turns into laziness. See, ladies, men are wired to pursue. That's not just relationship talk. That's human nature. When a man sees something valuable, something he wants, something that means the world to him, he will do whatever he has to do to get it. But when that thing is always sitting there in front of him, when that person is always giving without requiring, he starts forgetting how valuable it actually is. That's why when you pull away, when you stop feeding into that routine of always being present, something shifts. Now, let me be clear. Pulling away doesn't mean playing games. It doesn't mean punishing a man or trying to trick him. What it really means is that you are reclaiming your space, your time, your value, and you're reminding him of something he forgot. You are not guaranteed. You are a blessing, not a backup plan. And when you step back, it forces him to decide, am I going to step up and pursue this woman, or am I going to let her go? And ladies, that's where the truth shows up. If a man truly cares for you, if you matter to him beyond convenience, if he sees you as part of his future, then your pulling away is going to wake something up inside of him. It sparks that natural drive to pursue, to close that gap, to show up again. He'll start wondering where you are, why you're not answering right away, why your energy has shifted. And instead of sitting back, a real man will step forward. He'll make the effort to remind you that you're important to him. He won't risk letting you drift too far because losing you is not something he's willing to gamble with. But if he doesn't move, if you pull away and he lets the distance grow without lifting a finger, then that silence is your answer. That lack of pursuit is God's way of showing you that he wasn't invested the way you thought he was. And instead of crying over that, instead of chasing him down and begging him to show up, you should be thankful that you got your answer without wasting any more of your precious time. Because ladies' time is the one thing you don't get back. Why spend it on a man who can't even fight to keep you in his life? So when you step back, don't do it with fear. Don't think, what if he forgets about me? Or what if he moves on? Because if forgetting you or moving on is that easy for him, then he was never holding on to you with both hands in the first place. Pulling away is not about losing. It's about learning. It's about giving him the space to show you what's really in his heart. If he pursues you, you'll know he values you. If he doesn't, then you'll know he never did. Either way, you win because the truth always sets you free. When you pull away from a man, it's not just about creating distance. It's about creating clarity. See, men are used to patterns. If you always give him your attention, always respond quickly, always rearrange your schedule, he begins to believe that's the standard. That's how it's always going to be. But when you change the rhythm, when you stop being predictable, when you take a step back, That's when you see who he really is, because a man's reaction to your absence tells you more than his words ever could. He can tell you he cares. He can tell you he's serious. He can tell you he loves you. But if your absence doesn't move him, if he doesn't take action when you step away, then his words don't mean a thing. Men reveal their truth in the way they handle space. And I'll tell you this, ladies, sometimes pulling away feels risky. You think, if I don't call him, he won't call me. If I don't show up, he'll forget about me. If I stop giving, maybe he'll go somewhere else to find it. But that's the very reason you need to step back. Because if his commitment is that fragile, if his interest is that weak, if his loyalty depends on constant access to you, then he was never your man to begin with. A man who's serious about you will not let silence stand between you for long. He will not risk the possibility of losing you because of pride, laziness, or distraction. Pulling away puts the relationship in the light. It shows you his level of investment. Does he notice when you're quiet? Does he miss your presence? Does he check in to see why your energy shifted? Because when a man is serious, he pays attention. He notices the little things. He doesn't just brush them off. But if he doesn't care enough to notice, if he doesn't care enough to move closer when you step back, then you need to recognize that for what it is, the truth about his priorities. And let me say this, ladies, don't confuse pulling away with playing games. You're not pulling away to punish him. You're not pulling away to manipulate him into chasing you. You're pulling away to protect your peace, to protect your energy, to give yourself space to see things clearly. Because when you're constantly giving, constantly trying to make things work, constantly proving your value, you don't leave room for him to show what he's willing to do. Pulling away gives him that room. It gives you the opportunity to see the relationship from a distance instead of always being in the middle of it. And sometimes that distance is the very thing that saves you from wasting years on the wrong man. Here's the truth: men respect what they work for. When something is handed to them too easily, when there's no challenge, when there's no standard, they stop valuing it. But when they have to step up, when they have to put in effort, when they have to prove themselves, that's when respect grows. So when you pull away, you're not being cold. You're not being unfair. You're simply requiring him to meet you at the level you deserve. If he steps up, that's your confirmation. If he doesn't, then the silence is louder than any excuse he could ever give. So understand this: pulling away doesn't push the right man out of your life. It pulls the truth out of him. It shows you whether he sees you as a convenience or as a priority. And once you see that truth, you'll never have to question where you stand again. When you step back from a man, something powerful happens. That space you create becomes a mirror, and it reflects the reality of the relationship right back at you. A lot of times, when you're deeply invested, you're too close to the situation to see it clearly. You're busy pouring in, busy fixing, busy giving, and in the middle of all that effort, you start ignoring the signs. You overlook how little he's giving back because you're distracted by how much you're putting in. But the moment you stop, the moment you pause, the moment you decide to pull away, all those blind spots start to disappear. Suddenly you can see the truth. And the truth is always simple. A man who wants you will show up for you, and a man who doesn't will fade into the background. Pulling away also tests his consistency. It's easy for a man to show interest at the beginning when everything is exciting, when the connection feels new, when there's a thrill in winning your attention. But real love, real commitment isn't measured in the first few weeks. It's measured in the consistency that follows. Anybody can text you every day at the start. Anybody can call you when it's convenient. But the real question is, will he still pursue you when you take a step back? Will he still find ways to show up when you're no longer feeding him constant attention? That's when you find out if his words and actions align. Now, here's what's important to understand: men don't always respond to pulling away in the same way. Some men will panic because they know what you mean to them. They'll double their effort. They'll try to reconnect. They'll want to reassure you. Others will go silent, not because they don't notice, but because they realize they never planned to put in more effort than they already have. And that silence speaks louder than anything else. Silence is never empty. It's full of meaning. If a man lets you drift away without fighting for you, that tells you everything you need to know about where his priorities are. Pulling away also gives you back your power. Too often, women hand all the control over to the man in the relationship. You set your schedule around his. You change your plans to fit his. You sacrifice your needs because you're afraid of losing him. But when you pull away, you remind yourself that your life does not revolve around him. You are not an accessory in his world. You are the main character in your own. That shift in energy makes you stronger, and it forces him to see you differently too. A woman who knows her worth is magnetic. She doesn't have to chase. She doesn't have to beg. She doesn't have to prove. Her energy demands respect all by itself. And here's the kicker. Pulling away isn't about rejection. It's about direction. You're not pushing him out of your life. You're stepping into your own. You're giving him the choice to either walk beside you or get left behind. That choice is his, but the clarity is yours. Because if he comes after you, you'll know his feelings are real. If he doesn't, then you'll know you dodged a situation that would have drained you in the long run. Either way, you gain knowledge, and knowledge is freedom. So when you create distance, remember this, the right man will close that gap, and the wrong man will let it widen. And that, ladies, is how you finally see the difference between someone who truly values you and someone who only enjoyed the convenience of having you around. When you pull away from a man, you're not just stepping back from him. You're also stepping closer to yourself. Because here's the truth. When you give too much of yourself in a relationship, you start losing sight of who you are. You start bending your personality, your goals, your priorities, just to keep that connection alive. But when you create distance, when you stop chasing and start focusing on yourself, something powerful happens. You remember your worth. You remember what you bring to the table. And that shift, that energy, forces a man to make a choice. Men are not blind to change. They may act like they don't notice, but trust me, they notice everything. They notice when your texts slow down, when your energy changes, when you stop making yourself so available. And the moment they feel that, they start asking themselves questions. Why is she different? Why isn't she all over me like before? Has she moved on? Is she done with me? That's when you separate the real men from the boys. A man who cares is not going to sit with those questions in silence. He's going to move. He's going to pick up the phone. He's going to make the effort. He's going to remind you that he's there. Because when a man values you, the thought of losing you shakes him up. But if he doesn't move, if he lets the silence grow, if he allows the distance to become permanent, then that tells you the truth. You were never a priority in his life. You might have been an option, a comfort, or a habit, but not a commitment. And as hard as that truth is, it's better to know it now than to find it out years later when you've already invested your time, your heart, and your dreams. Pulling away exposes the real position you hold in his life. It shows you whether he's holding on to you with both hands or whether he's just holding you loosely, ready to let go at any time. And ladies, let me tell you, a man who really wants you doesn't need to be begged to stay. He doesn't need constant reminders of your value. He doesn't need you to chase him down. Because when a man loves a woman, he will fight for her. He will show up for her. He will make it known that she matters to him. But if you're always giving, always filling in the gaps, always making excuses for his lack of effort, you'll never give him the opportunity to rise to the occasion. Pulling away isn't about punishing him. It's about creating the space for him to prove himself. And here's something else: men respect boundaries. They may test them, They may push them. But at the end of the day, a man respects a woman who respects herself. When you pull away, you're sending a message that says, I will not settle for less than I deserve. That's not being cold. That's not being heartless. That's being wise. Because love without respect isn't love at all. It's dependency. And you deserve more than that. So when you take that step back, don't look at it as losing something. Look at it as gaining the truth. You're giving him the chance to step up, but you're also giving yourself the chance to see if he ever intended to. And whatever the outcome, you're stronger, wiser, and freer because of it. That's the power of pulling away. It doesn't just show you who he is, it reminds you of who you are. When you step back from a man, what you're really doing is testing his investment. See, love is not about what somebody says in the moment. It's about what they do when it counts. Anybody can say, I love you when things are easy, when you're right there beside them, when you're always showing up and doing the work. But love isn't measured in convenience. It's measured in sacrifice. So when you pull away, when you stop making everything easy, when you stop handing out your attention and affection on a silver platter, that's when you see if he's willing to sacrifice to keep you. A man who's serious about you is not going to let you slip through his fingers. He's going to notice the change. He's going to feel the absence. He's going to recognize that something is different, and he's going to act on it. That's the nature of a man who's truly invested. He won't sit back and risk losing a woman he knows has value. But a man who was only there for what you could give him, a man who only enjoyed the benefits of your presence without being willing to pour back into you, he'll let the silence linger. He'll let you drift because you were never his priority to begin with. And that's the gift of pulling away. It shows you the difference between the two. It forces the truth to surface. Because without that distance, you can keep living in the illusion. You can keep telling yourself, he just needs more time. He'll change. He'll step up one day. But when you take that step back, there's no room for illusions. His reaction tells you everything. If he values you, he will bridge the gap. If he doesn't, he will watch you walk away. And as painful as that might feel, it saves you from wasting years in a one-sided situation. Now, here's the thing most women forget. Pulling away isn't about controlling him. It's about controlling yourself. You're not stepping back to manipulate his emotions. You're stepping back to protect your peace. Because when you're always available, when you're always giving, you're actually robbing yourself of the opportunity to see if he can meet you halfway. You're carrying the whole relationship on your back, and that's not love. That's labor. Love is supposed to be mutual. It's supposed to be two people showing up, not one person giving and the other one coasting. So when you pull away, you're allowing balance to re-enter the picture. You're allowing him the chance to do his part, to prove his effort, to demonstrate that he's not just talking, he's walking. And if he can't do that, then you need to know. Better to find out now, while you still have the power to walk away, than later when you're too invested, too deep, and too tired to fight for something that should have been mutual from the start. And let me tell you this, ladies, the right man doesn't run when you pull away. He runs toward you. He doesn't resent your boundaries, he respects them. He doesn't get offended by your strength, he's inspired by it. Because a man who's truly built for you isn't intimidated by your standards, he's motivated by them. And when you pull away, that's when you see if he's that kind of man. If he steps up, you know you've got something real. If he doesn't, you know you deserve better. When you decide to pull away from a man, you've got to understand something. It's not weakness. It's strength. It takes courage to stop pouring into someone who isn't matching your energy. It takes courage to stop chasing after potential and start demanding reality. And it takes courage to risk losing someone just so you can find out if they were really yours to begin with. But that's exactly why pulling away is so powerful, because it forces the truth to come to the surface. It removes the masks, it eliminates the excuses, and it reveals what's been hiding in plain sight. Now, here's what happens next. A man who's serious about you will not stay comfortable with the silence. He won't be okay with the distance. He won't let the days slip by without making an effort. He'll feel that gap and he'll move quickly to close it. Because when a man truly wants a woman, he doesn't gamble with her absence. He doesn't take her for granted. He doesn't assume she'll always be there. Instead, he makes sure she knows he's not going anywhere. That's what a man who's invested looks like. He's consistent, he's intentional, and he refuses to let you doubt where you stand in his life. But the flip side is just as important. If you pull away and he doesn't come after you, that silence is the answer you've been avoiding. Because if a man can watch you drift and not feel the urgency to pull you closer, then you've got to stop telling yourself stories about how much he cares. Care is proven in action. Love is proven in pursuit. Commitment is proven in consistency. And if those things aren't there when you step back, then you know they were never really there to begin with. And as much as that might sting, that clarity is a blessing. It gives you the freedom to stop wasting your time and start focusing on a future that actually has something to offer you. Another thing to understand is that pulling away doesn't just show you who he is, it shows him who you are. It sends a message without you even having to speak. It says you're not going to be taken for granted. It says you're not going to keep pouring into something empty. It says you know your worth and you'd rather be alone in peace than together in confusion. And that message, whether he responds to it or not, sets the tone for every relationship you'll ever have moving forward. Because once you learn to value yourself like that, you stop accepting half love, half effort, and half commitment. And ladies, let me be honest with you. Pulling away is not about punishment. It's not about trying to make him jealous. It's not about games. It's not about games. It's about growth. It's about stepping into a place where you let actions speak louder than words. Because when you stop doing the chasing, when you stop carrying all the weight, when you stop giving without receiving, that's when you finally see things for what they are. You stop living in potential and start living in reality. And reality, no matter how hard it is, will always set you free. So remember this when you pull away. You're not losing. You're learning. You're learning who's willing to pursue you. You're learning who's willing to fight for you. You're learning who sees your value and who doesn't. And once you know that, you never have to question it again. That knowledge is power. That knowledge is peace. And that knowledge is what leads you to the love you truly deserve.